Hi, it's Recovery Mom, and I am chilling in my car, probably for an hour, waiting for Lou. And I thought I would come hang out and see if anybody wanted to chat, maybe answer some questions, talk for a little bit. Yeah, Lou's getting a facial. And I decided to come take them and pick them up, and I didn't want to drive home, so I thought I would just hang out and go live and see what everybody's doing. But when I dropped Lou off, I realized that there was some sort of a marathon happening, and all of these runners with like numbers on their bodies are pulling into downtown. And it made me remember the days when I used to run nonstop. And man, am I thankful. I would rather now sit in my car still and watch the runners finish their race than move my body in that way anymore. And some people fully recovered might feel differently about movement, but for me, when I fully recovered, I realized movement was not ever going to be an important part of my life again. I do not have the movement gene. So it just clarified for me how much movement was a part of my eating disorder, how much movement was based upon my eating disorder rules. And as I was recovering, I swore that I was moving for movement, that I was moving for health, that I was exercising because it was good for my muscles and my energy and this and that. And I convinced people that I needed movement because I genuinely loved movement. And what I found after I fully recovered is that I didn't have a clear enough brain. My brain chemistry was not clear and clean enough to fully look into myself and see why I was moving my body. Because when you're in recovery, you can't make those decisions with a clear mind. It's only when you're fully recovered you can decide to move for the sake of movement or for fun or because your body feels good that way. And some people it might, right? But when you're in recovery, you can't make those decisions for yourself because you, quite frankly, don't have a clear mind to make those decisions with. Do you know what I mean? So like when I was in my recovery and trying to convince everybody that I needed to keep moving or I needed to keep going to the gym or it was okay for me to take those walks because isn't it healthy and good to go to the gym, right? Isn't it healthy and good to walk? And for me, at that time, it wasn't healthy and good, right? A stroller and they put their cat in it. And if I want to take Lou and their cat for a walk, it's because Lou needs to take their cat for a walk. It's not because I feel the need to move my body, right? I feel the same. I've recently began listening when I want to move, but my family wants me to move more. So if your family wants you to move more, your family might not understand an eating disorder, right? Because when you have an eating disorder, and if your family doesn't understand this, it might be worth giving them some information. You can find some research on this specific subject. Because when you have an eating disorder, it mixes up your brain chemistry, and one of the things that it mixes up is your neurotransmitter that is responsible for you moving. I wonder if I have like oh my God, look at this. One of my pamphlets. Let's look at what the neurotransmitter is that makes you responsible for movement. It's in here somewhere. it is called, I'm going to butcher the name. It's called the corticotropin releasing hormone, right? And it's hyper secreted when you have an eating disorder. That hormone is secreting too much. You have too much of it in your body. That hormone is also responsible for a human being seeking out movement. And that's why when you have an eating disorder, you seek out too much movement. It's because this hormone is raised abnormally. It's too high, okay? When you have an eating disorder propensity and you go into energy deficit, it mixes up all these hormones and neurotransmitters, one of which is the corticotropin releasing hormone. And when that hormone is abnormally high, it makes a person seek out too much movement. And you cannot reduce that hormone if you're still seeking out movement. Okay, it's not going to happen. So that's why it's so important to stop movement in recovery, because you actually have a hormone. Humans don't just seek out movement for no reason. We have every single thing we do is based on like hormones, neurotransmitters, brain chemistry. We think it's all kind of just free will based, but it's not. It's all just a bunch of neurotransmitter, brain chemistry changes and movement that's happening in our brains. And one of which is that hormone that makes us seek out movement. And if your normal level is here and then you go into energy deficit and you start that cascade of changes in your brain, that means you have an eating disorder. Your hormone responsible for movement is raised too high. That's why we always feel the need to move. And that makes sense in the backdrop of a migrating human, right? Because if this is a response to famine environment and it's forcing our bodies to migrate, part of migrating is movement, right? So it makes sense that for those of us with the eating disorder, with anorexia in our brains, and it's activated, it makes sense that part of that would be causing us to move too much. So your family might just not understand the biological aspect of why your body's trying to get you to move too much when you have an eating disorder, and why it's so important to go against that and not move, right? So it is really important to rest, to not jog, to not run, especially not do the lower level movement when you're recovering. I lost all my appetite and I'm afraid I can't even sip on my coffee. So that happens to so many of us in recovery. And it happened off and on during my recovery, but even when I felt that way, like I always had like this backdrop of extreme hunger happening. Even when I kind of had no like frontal hunger, I suppose is what I want to call it, I still kind of had a backdrop of mental hunger going on. And sometimes you don't realize it's mental hunger, right? Because you might be looking at, food videos, watching Super Size, what was that? So Super Size, Super Skinny Me or something like that. Watching those kind of shows, reading recipe books, like all of that stuff is mental hunger and you don't realize it. So while you might not have physical hunger, you might have hunger in other ways, like mental hunger. And then you just have to figure out how you're going to get that food in, because you have to be prepared for that. There are going to be times in your recovery where you lose your hunger. I remember losing my hunger and it was when I was super committed, very far into my recovery toward the end. It was kind of like even after extreme hunger hit really hard and I completely lost my hunger. All food sounded gross. Nothing sounded good. I would stand in the kitchen and I couldn't even think of anything I wanted to eat, right? I'd already worked through a lot of fear foods and nothing sounded good. Everything just made me feel ick. And I remember thinking, why couldn't I feel like this way back when I was trying to lose all that weight and really sick with my eating disorder, right? Why couldn't that have happened then? I was so angry that this full non-hunger time happened at that point in my recovery. But when it does, it's your job to figure out how you're going to get enough food in during that time. You're going to have to figure it out. Are you going to just sit with peanut butter? Is that okay? Are you going to drink lots of Ensure drinks, right? And I had to do that. I had to pull those Ensure drinks back out. I had to, eat a lot of those calorie-dense foods like ice creams and peanut butters, because it's up to you to get through that time. Nobody else
can make you eat when you're not hungry but you. And so you have to figure out how you're going to sneak it in. And I know sometimes it's hard and we're nauseous and we're sick and we're bloated and we're full on top of it and our brain is telling us how it's bad and it's wrong. But also, we want to recover for a reason. There's a reason you started on the recovery journey, right? And the reason is eating disorders are miserable. You were not happy with your eating disorder, right? So you have to remember that. Remember how unhappy that eating disorder made you, and then figure out how you're going to sneak that food in, because you have to commit to eating that baseline amount of food. You have to. Yes, you have to mechanically eat. You have to mechanically eat through that time. And that's what you do when you don't have hunger. You fall back on that mechanical eating. And if there's certain things you can't eat, you have to figure out what you can get in and keep in, right? And for me, it was a lot of like Ensures or smoothies, or really, it's time to eat the real calorie dense foods when you're not hungry, because you have to make every bite count, right? I'm scared of weight gain. I'm so mentally hungry. It's exhausting. That's classic eating disorder, right? That's the crux of the whole eating disorder issue. We have this mental hunger. We're starving. We are malnourished, starving bodies. You have to remember to look at yourself that way. And you're also afraid of weight gain, because when you have an eating disorder and all the hormonal changes happen and the neurotransmitter changes happen, we end up with like the three hallmarks of an eating disorder are avoiding feeding, fear of weight gain, right? Body changes, and moving too much. And so those are the classic things that happen to us. And when you're starving, you end up mentally hungry. So you have to commit. Recovery is going to come with some aspect of weight gain. It just is. And you have to do some work around that. For me, personally, it really helped to kind of like, just for the weight gain aspect, it really helped to kind of zoom out and try to think about, like, not right now, not this 3 pounds, but where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Do I want to still be sick in this body, or do I want to be free and having a meal in a restaurant, having a sweet milky coffee? And I used to think, and neither of my kids, I think, want kids. I'll probably never be a grandma. But I used to think, if I am a grandmother one day, what kind of grandma do I want to be? Do I want to be a grandma that's concerned with gaining weight, right? Do I want to be a grandma that is like worried about adding milk in the coffee, or not wanting to have cookies? Or if my grandchild brings me cookies, I'm throwing them in the garbage when they're not looking, right? That's not the grandma I want to be. Because when I would look out into my environment, and I would do this, I would like sit in the parking lot of the mall, the Walmart, and before I would drive in or out or anything, I would just kind of look around at people, and I would just like imagine what their lives were like. And when I would see ladies, especially older ladies my age, that were obviously too thin and sickly, all I could think of was, they don't look happy, right? They don't look fun. They don't look cozy. They don't look warm and inviting. They just didn't. But then when I would see larger ladies and larger bodies, they always looked happy, funner, more relaxed, gentler, calmer. And like, I might have been projecting what I wanted to be one day, but that's honestly how I saw it. And when I looked out there, I thought, in 5 years, I don't want to be that skinny lady that can't have cake. I want to be the grandma that can bake cookies and eat them with my grandkids, right? So, yeah, and I don't want to be a grandma that's not there. And anorexia kills a lot of people. It does. That is like the path. It's misery and then it's death. And I didn't want that. And so you have to like zoom out and think, yes, you're going to gain weight. You might not like it, because it might not be socially acceptable where you are. Your family might not even accept your weight gain, right? that bigger body. Your workplace might not accept your bigger body. There's so many things about that bigger body you might not like. But instead of focusing on that, every time you think about that, I also want you to make a list of things that that bigger body gives you. The gifts, the happiness, the love, your family not being afraid you're going to die, right? Being able to go to a restaurant, being able to eat surprise cake. There's so many gifts of a bigger body. You're not cold all the time. Your hair's not falling out. Your nails are growing. Your ass doesn't hurt in the bathtub because it's so bony. Like, there are so many gifts of a bigger body, and you can't lose sight of that. So when you hit that wall of not thinking you can accept weight gain, you can't just be like, oh, I can't accept weight gain. That sucks for me. I can't accept it. I'm not doing it. I'm going back. You got to check yourself. You got to check yourself. You're the only one that can. So check yourself. Can you accept a bigger body? You can. You can. Make that list of why a bigger body is better, and then read it every single time you hit that wall. Did you have an ED? Did you have bulimia? Yep, and yeah, check. Yes, I was diagnosed with anorexia binge purge, with bulimia, all of it. Yes, absolutely. And chewing and spitting and laxative abuse. Everything that goes along with it, I did. Absolutely. For a very long time. I did not start recovery till I was like 46 years old. And that's why I get so sad when people say, I'm stuck, I can't do it, or I'm too old to change, or I've been doing this too long. You haven't been doing this too long. You're not too old to change. I was 46 years old, and it took 3 solid years before I was recovered. And I know you can do it. You just have to commit. You just have to commit and make the changes, right? And out of all of those, I can't even pick which one. I think probably purging was and chewing and spitting. Those behaviors are so absolutely brutal to get over and painful. I'm relapsing for feeling guilty for wasting my parents' money on my meal plan. So if you're feeling guilty for your parents wasting money on your meal plan, like, relapsing is the opposite of what you should do, right? Recovering is what you should do, because then their money wouldn't be wasted, right? Let's start right there. But also, I'm wondering if your eating disorder is looking for an excuse to have you jump ship on recovery. Because our eating disorders will look for little holes. Our eating disorders are in our brain, so they know our soft spots. They know our weak spots. And what does that sign say? They know our weak spots and our soft spots. They know how to get us to relapse, right? They're in our brains. They already know that information. That's what makes it so hard. But nobody can make you recover but you. Nobody can make you eat to your meal plan but you. So if you're looking for a reason to relapse, you'll find it. You'll find it. But also, if you want a reason to recover, you can find that too. And what I would suggest you do is, when you think about relapsing, when you start relapsing, have a conversation with yourself. Make a conscious decision, because so many people say, oh, I just got triggered and I relapsed. Okay, but also make a decision. Stop just letting that take over, because you're actually making a non-conscious decision, you think, but it's also an actual conscious decision. So now, when you catch yourself relapsing like you just did, and you're like, oh, I'm relapsing, okay, stop yourself. Are you going to relapse? Make a decision. Are you going to relapse and live with your eating disorder? Was that fun? Was that exciting? Was that like thrilling to be home alone with no food and no friends because you're too afraid to go out to the restaurants with them? You're too afraid to go to parties because there might be food there, right? You have to go to the gym all the time. Or are you going to get back into recovery? Because you have to make that conscious decision. Don't just relapse and then tell yourself, oh man, I did it. When you feel yourself relapsing, it's up to you to stop and say, am I going to choose this? Is this what I'm going to choose today? Why would I choose recovery and why would I choose relapse? Make a list, pros and cons, then decide. Because if you do that, more often than not, you're going to choose recovery because our eating disorders are miserable. You know that, and I know that. We both know that. I feel so guilty. I'm already a normal weight, so I'll be in a very large body if I keep recovering. If you knew how often people had this same sentiment, you would honestly probably be shocked. Because most people with eating disorders are not in a BMI classification underweight body, okay? First of all, that whole classification system, we all know it now, is not good. But that said, the majority of people with eating disorders are not in an underweight body. But for some reason, if we're in what's termed a healthy body or a normal size body, we tend to feel like we can't make the recovery choices and the recovery steps. They don't apply to us because we're in a body that's too large. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. And in fact, your body as it is right now is not healthy, is not a normal size body. Because if it was a set point body for you, you wouldn't have an eating disorder right now. So right now, you're not living in your set point. You're not. So you're going to have to make some choices. For me, I remember hitting that stage. I remember hitting the stage where I entered the normal weight category of the BMI and I freaked the fuck out and I panicked and I wanted to run back and I wasn't going to recover anymore. Then I hit the other side, right, of the healthy normal weight into the overweight category. And then I really freaked out. I'm like, I really can't keep going with recovery. It's never going to end. But what I will tell you is it's going to end at your set point. The set point that's right for your body. And it might not be in the normal weight category of the BMI. Mine wasn't. My set point is at the very high end of the overweight category of the BMI. It is not in the normal weight category. I wanted it to be all through my recovery. Now that I'm fully recovered, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I don't care where my set point lands because I'm so happy to be free of all those fucking eating disorder thoughts. They are miserable, horrible thoughts. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It is all consuming. The weight, the numbers, the movement, the calculations, that I can't do this, that I'm stuck here, the what am I going to eat, what did I eat, what can't I eat, what did I eat last week, what are you eating, what are they eating, like all of the thoughts. And I'm here to tell you a bigger body is worth and is so much better than dealing and living with those thoughts. It is so much better. But the thing is you're not going to believe it until you get there. So you have to go on blind faith until you get there. And your body will stop at its set point. Maybe you'll have some overshoot. I always was hoping for overshoot. I hoped my body had overshoot. It didn't. It just settled where it settled. And I never lost any. And I think I probably still I think all bodies normally gain weight every year. I'm sure I gain some every year, right? But you have to be okay with recovery moves, recovery changes, and recovery steps, no matter where you're at in your body now, because it's not about where you're at in your body now. It's about eating unrestricted until right? So until you're fully recovered, whatever that might look like. And I remember making a deal with myself that I was just going to gain and gain and gain and gain and gain and not care anymore for a full year. I was just going to do it for a year. And after a year, if I was really still miserable, I was going to lose it all back again and go back to my eating disorder, because we all know I'm amazing at losing weight and I can do it, right? We all know that. So that was my plan with myself. But of course, when I got there, I didn't want to go back, and nobody does, right? I feel like I don't have Anna now because I'm not diagnosed. So I can't diagnose you. I'm not a professional. I'm just someone that's recovered from an eating disorder. But I'm just going to ask you this question. If you think you don't have an eating disorder, let's ask you this question. Could you wake up tomorrow? And this, I always ask humans this question if they feel like they're not sick enough, if they think that they might not have an eating disorder. Can you wake up tomorrow and can you eat a nice big breakfast the moment you wake up? Like sausage or whatever, eggs with cheese and tortillas or toast and pancakes. And like literally fill yourself up on a huge like IHOP style, Denny style breakfast, right? And then you eat a giant snack and then you have a big old lunch. And then after eating all of that, after lunch, someone brings you a giant piece of surprise cake that you didn't even know was coming your way. And you just say thank you and eat it because you wanted to share in that moment with them. Even though you were pretty full, you ate it anyway because it was a special moment between you and them. And then you had your next snack and you had a big dinner and you had a big dessert and you did all of that without moving your body yesterday, today, or tomorrow. And you did it without any guilt or shame or calculations or worry. You just ate. Can you do that? Because people without eating disorders, they generally do that, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people on the verge that are kind of like, I don't know if the term now I think is almond moms, right? Or like clean eating or whatever you want to call it, where they're just like panicked about eating this or eating that. But like, I think that's just another word for orthorexia. Okay? So can you do that without guilt and shame? Because if not, it would be really worth making some recovery changes so that your future doesn't have to have all those calculations and thoughts and worries in it. And you can spend time worrying about what's really important, right? Which isn't the food that we eat, right? I had Anna, then tried to recover, but binging never ended because before Anna, I always ate big portions. So there is nothing wrong with big portions. In our society, we tend to feel like we all have to eat this certain way. My husband is 6 foot, over 200 pounds, and I eat more than him and I eat faster. I eat more than him at every meal. And I eat faster than him. And it used to really bother me, especially when I was trying to recover, right? And I would just look at what he was eating and I would try to pace myself and I would always worry and panic that I was eating more and shouldn't I be eating less and shouldn't I be eating 1,200 calories because that's what's normal for a woman my age, right? 1,200 calories. And it just, I was never satisfied on 1,200 calories. I was never satisfied on a normal sized meal. I wanted a big meal. And what I learned is everybody is different. My body requires more calories and bigger meals than my 6 foot, 200 pound husband. And I eat faster than him every meal. And that is just what my body needs and wants. And I am over letting diet culture or clean eating or any of those tag words tell me what my body wants to feel satisfied. Because I'll tell you what, when you recover and you do finally go through extreme hunger and you eat all the food and you let yourself have it and you come out the other side and then you eat a nice big hearty meal and you truly feel satisfied, there is nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And I truly didn't think that it would happen for me. I didn't think so. I didn't think it was possible to feel satisfied. I used to ask my dietitian and my therapist, you mean you eat a meal and then you're just done and you're satisfied and you don't think about ice cream after or candy or cookies or another burger? Like you're just done? They're like, yeah, I don't want any more. I'm done. I'm satisfied. And I'm like, that doesn't compute with me. It doesn't make sense with me. And it's because I was living in a malnourished body, right? And when you're recovering, you also need a lot more calories than your maintenance to recover, okay? Okay, it's just you need a lot more calories. If your maintenance is going to be 3,000, then in recovery you need 3,500, 4,000. Like, you need more calories in your maintenance because you have repair work to do. Your body's been damaged. It has to be repaired. It's like taking out a loan. You took out a loan and now you got to pay it back with interest, right? Is it bad that I don't want to recover at all? Of course you don't want to recover. None of us want to recover. I didn't want to recover. Think I wanted to recover? I did not want to recover. I recovered because I got so sick. I couldn't lie anymore about having an eating disorder in my family. It became pretty obvious. They were calling me Lou was calling me Skeletor. I mean, they were talking about inpatient. It became very obvious how sick I was. I didn't want to recover. I was kind of forced into it, right? That's how I started recovery, because I knew if I didn't recover and my kids got an eating disorder, they wouldn't recover. So I kind of had to recover. I felt really pushed into it. But nobody wants to recover. And that's because when you have an eating disorder, it comes from like the primal part of your brain. It's an evolutionary adaptation to famine. And because of that, it's actually life or death. It's like from the amygdala. And so your eating disorder feels life or death. It quite simply feels like if you stick with anorexia, you will live. If you give anorexia up, it means you will die. That's how it feels. And that's why it's so hard for us to recover, because it feels like life or death. It feels absolutely like the wrong thing to do to recover. Every step feels wrong. Every bite feels wrong. Every time we don't move, it feels wrong. So how are you supposed to go day by day by day doing everything all day that feels inherently wrong and like you're quite literally going to die if you do it? Yet that is what you have to do to recover. So it's absolutely normal to feel that way. And you can say it. I used to say it all the time. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to recover. I don't want to stop moving. I don't want to give up the gym. I don't want to. I used to say that all the time, right? But then I would do it because I knew I had to, because I knew my brain chemistry was fucked up. And the only way to normalize my brain chemistry again, to see if it would give me other feedback, is to actually eat and stop moving and get to the other side and see if it's different. Because right now, when you have an eating disorder, your brain chemistry is so mixed up. It's feeding you the wrong information. And that information would have saved your life a long time ago when you really truly needed to migrate because of a famine. But now the famine is self-imposed and you don't really need to migrate. Okay, but yet it still feels life or death, right? That's why you feel that way. But you have to do the opposite, even though you feel that way. Do you know why when you have bulimia, you get so bloated? I think that's what it said. So bloated after not so many calories, it's so hard to recover. So you get so bloated after not so many calories with bulimia or anorexia. And it's because when you eat food and then you get rid of it, or when you don't eat, your gastrointestinal tract is not working like it should. So it takes things so long to move through. Everything is slowed. I remember I could throw up things from days before because like my gastrointestinal tract was slow. So then when I was trying to recover and trying to eat food, I would eat a little bit of food, boom, I would look 9 months pregnant, and it would stay for such a long time. And it's really hard to eat through that time. And you add the fact that you want to purge on top of that, and everybody purges for different reasons. For me, it had a lot to do with the release, and it felt really good, more than just getting rid of calories, which was obviously a part of it. But like, you add that addictive factor of purging on top of how you're feeling, and it's just so hard. I get it. It was one of the hardest things ever to stop. And when you're bloated like that, like, I wish I could tell you there's like some magic thing to help. You could like try digestive enzymes. I couldn't take them. I had a big diet pill addiction and they didn't work for me. But I was just too afraid to get hooked on something like that. But you could try digestive enzymes if you don't have like the panic around them. And some people do hot water bottles or distraction, and all of those things are wonderful. But truly, the only thing that is going to help is if you continue to feed and up your calories. That's the only thing that's going to truly help over time, because the reason it's happening is because you're not letting enough go through your digestive system. And so the more you stop letting it go through, the more it's going to back up and bloat. And this is not the time for fruits and vegetables. You have to be eating highly processed, easily digestible foods. That's what you need to eat right now. So fruits and vegetables, you're going to eat them. They're going to sit there forever. They're going to sit there for days in your stomach, fruits and vegetables right now. You need to be eating things that are going to go through quickly, like, I don't know, French fry. You want to eat vegetables? Eat French fries. French fries, pancakes, burgers, right? Pizza, whatever you can eat. Chips are a good one. Nuts or peanut butter is a good one right now. Or better yet, cookie butter, that Biscoff butter. That's what you need to be eating right now, because your body can process that better and easier for energy, for repair work, and it'll bloat you a little bit less. But there's nothing that's going to help long term unless you just keep pushing it and upping your calories. And I know it's painful. I used to lay in the fetal position on my bed and debate whether or not I should go to the ER. It was so bad. But the only thing that will really truly help, and there is a medicine, and I can't remember what it's called, and my physician never offered it to me, and I didn't ask, but there is some medications, I can't remember what it's called, to help you move things along. And it's not a laxative or anything, because those are highly addictive. It's an actual something to help with your gastrointestinal tract. I can't remember what it's called, but there is something if you have a physician that you're willing to take that up with. But otherwise, honestly, it just takes you have to push yourself to get through that time. And it is really, really hard. Oh man. I simply cannot recover because of food prices. It is insane. You absolutely can recover despite food prices. Okay, you absolutely can. Your brain, a lot of people think, because a lot of times I talk about when I ate out or when I go to a lot of fast food places during my recovery. And that was a blessing that I was able to do that. But your body knows the difference between if you're restricting or not restricting. So if you're craving Taco Bell and you make beans at home and have them with tortillas or saltines or whatever, you steal some, Taco Bell packets and have the hot sauce with it, and you just have big bowls of that with maybe some cheese if you have that, or even if you don't, just with the hot sauce, your body knows that you're not restricting because that's what you have access to. Now, if you have cheese and you left it off because you were kind of worried or whatever, and you tried to tell yourself you're not restricting, that you weren't craving the cheese, your body knows you were restricting the cheese. Your body knows the difference. You don't have to have a lot of money to recover. Most people that have eating disorders all over the world, the majority of them spontaneously, they recover on their own with friends or family and without access to treatment or without treatment. Most people recover that way. That's what large population studies tell us now. So you don't need access to fancy things to recover. You can recover on beans and rice and tortillas or breads or whatever you do have access to. You can get food bank food and you can recover. You don't need fancy foods. You just need to eat enough. You need to eat when you wake up. You need to eat breakfast. You need to eat every 2.5 to 3 hours, and you need to eat enough, which is 3,500 calories a day minimum. If you do those things and stop your movement, you can recover. You don't need fancy food. You just need enough, and you can get enough cheaper foods to recover on. You absolutely can, right? And so I would encourage you to, instead of telling yourself, I can't recover because of food prices, say, how am I going to recover despite fucking food prices? How am I going to do it? How am I going to make it work? What can I fill my home with that is cheap, that I can have a big enough quantity of, that I can feel satisfied and full and get enough calories in? Because beans are delicious, and you can cook them. You can cook them plain with ketchup. You can cook them, you can refry them, right? With oil or shortening or lard. And you can, bump up the calorie content of them that way, and then add hot sauce on them. There are so many ways to cook beans. You can do rice the same way. You can do rice. You can add a little sugar and have rice pudding. You can have rice many ways, right? You can add a little tomato sauce and have a Mexican rice. You can have a white rice. There's so many things you can do with just beans and rice alone. And quite honestly, when I was sick, I never ate that shit. I was so afraid of beans and rice. You can absolutely recover without spending a lot of money. You just have to be inventive and figure out how you're going to do it. So instead of saying, I can't, say, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to do it? And then do it, right? I know you can. What if I'm not hungry at all? You eat. You eat when you're not hungry. You mechanically eat. Recovery is about eating when you don't want to, eating when you're scared to, eating when you're full, eating when you're bloated, eating when you feel sick and nauseous, right? Recovery is eating under all of those things. Can I still have Anna if I do eat pickles because they're 0 calories? Well, is that the reason you're eating pickles? That's the reason I was eating pickles until I got afraid of the salt content of pickles, and then I couldn't eat pickles, and then it got bad. So I'm not sure if you said anything above this. So I'm just going to respond to that. But check yourself. If you're just eating pickles because they're 0 calories, I'd question that. How about taking pickles and eating them with something highly dense? Like I saw a recipe the other day where somebody put shredded cheese on a cooktop. They stuck a pickle spear in there and wrapped the cheese around it, and it got all fried and toasty, kind of like a grilled cheese, but it was just cheese and pickle. Test yourself. Could you eat that? So if the answer is no, I'd be afraid to eat that. I'd be worried, right? But if you're eating pickles because they're delicious and you love pickles and you don't mind eating the higher calorie stuff also, well, okay, maybe that's okay. But if you're simply eating them because they're 0 calories, I would really check yourself now, right? That's a problem. That's a problem. Because if you're eating something based on its calorie content, you're not listening to your body. You're listening to what's out here to tell you what you should eat. You're listening to diet culture. You're listening to the food pyramid. You're listening to, your almond mom or your coworkers that are like super clean eaters, or whoever you're listening to, or your coworker that's on Whole30, or all of those intermittent fasters, or whoever you're listening to. But when you're listening to any of that, you're not listening to your body. And the farther you go away from your body, the harder it is to get back there when you recover. Do you have any advice on recovering during school? It is brutal to recover during school because there are so many challenges around school. And I don't know if you mean like high school or college or whatever, but in that type of environment, you not only have like this peer pressure and the societal pressure of being a certain body size, but you also have the pressure of people going out and drinking and eating or all of those kind of things. And so then, you end up pulling away from your friends, and then you go deeper into your eating disorder. And there's just so much more to deal with when you're in school. But also, you have to deal with it because you have an eating disorder. So you have to be intentional. How are you going to recover during school? So make a meal plan and stick to it. I used to, when I was recovering, I would wake up, I had a bowl of candy bars by my bed. First it was protein bars. I was afraid of candy bars. First it was the lowest calorie protein bar, and then I moved up, and then it became candy bars anyway. And I used to have to force myself to eat one before my feet could touch the floor. And sometimes I'd have to pee so bad when I wake up, but I could not go to the bathroom. I couldn't leave my bed until I ate a candy bar. Make some rules like that, because your eating disorder is full of rules. You know it is. So make some recovery rules to combat that. So how can you do that during school? Do you have to eat a candy bar before every class? How about an Ensure before every class? How about both before every class? How about committing to breakfast every morning also? How about making sure you set a timer for every 3 hours, fitting those snacks in and those lunches in? You just have to be intentional. Make sure you get those meals in, right? And make sure you try to surround yourself with people that understand eating disorders and that all bodies are good bodies, right? Because a lot of times we end up surrounding ourselves with people who don't quite feel that way, and then we end up feeling shame or guilt for being on our recovery path. But your recovery has to be first, because if you don't recover now, you're going to end up like me at 46 recovering. And then you will have wasted decades of your life where you could have been eating cake and going to restaurants and celebrating holidays with food instead of being terrified and throwing up in the bathroom, right? So now is the time to recover, and it is hard. And the only tips I can really give you is that you have to commit to each change you're going to do. If you're eating 2 meals right now, you don't have to jump in and go all in, but can you add a third? Can you commit to breakfast before you leave the house? What is one thing you can commit to doing that you know you can keep in? Commit to it, keep it in, okay? And then when you have that in a couple weeks, what is the next thing you can add in? Because chances are you might really miss some things. You might miss hot cocoa. You might miss grilled cheese sandwiches. What is something you miss that your, eating disorder has stolen from you that you want back? And start there. Start giving yourself back things that you truly lost to your eating disorder. And that will maybe help keep you a little bit motivated to keep moving forward. Okay? I don't know what we're talking about, but I just pulled down and said, does the salt content hurt me? Salt will not hurt you in any shape. You need salt. But then it says too much salt, too much with anything is harmful. Well, I disagree with that, because when you have an eating disorder, you have to let go of that mindset, right? Because if you have diabetes and you have too much sugar, it might be harmful. When you have an eating disorder and you have a mindset that too much of a certain food is bad for you, it's harmful, because that mindset is an eating disorder mindset to have. For those of us with eating disorders, that's a fucking rabbit hole. Because if you say too much of anything is harmful, now my brain is going, wait, should I only have 1 candy bar a day? I shouldn't eat 2 candy bars. Wait, I shouldn't have had that. Oh my gosh, should I not eat pizza 3 times a week? Too much pizza could be harmful. Wait, there's a lot of salt and pickles. Now I should only have 1 pickle a day. Wait, and then my brain is just going to go crazy. If you take that out of the equation, if you stop telling yourself that you can't have, why can't you eat all the pickles in the world one day? Because if you remove that from your vocabulary and you just allow your body to have what it wants to have, your body will work it out. Because I used to think the same thing. I used to think, well, I'll just eat burgers till I die. I'm never going to eat anything else, or I'm never going to eat anything other than pancakes, or especially sweets, because I thought I had the biggest sweet tooth and I was never going to get over it. All I wanted were sweets in recovery for the longest time. I'm not a big sweets person anymore. I don't even eat dessert most nights. And it blows my mind, because I thought I was never going to go a day without craving and needing a ton of sweets. But it's just like the salt and the pickles. I've allowed my body to have as much of it that it wants. So now my body just asks for what it needs. The other night I woke up in the middle of the night, I ate 2 of those little oranges, and then I went back to bed. My body wanted oranges. And that is weird for me because when I was sick and in recovery, I had night eating syndrome. And all I ate in the night was half gallons of ice cream and entire sleeves of cookies. I was never eating oranges. But my body wanted oranges, right? But that's because I gave my body permission to eat all the cake and the cookies and the ice cream it wanted. So that now it can actually truly tell me what it needs to work optimally. And the other night it was oranges. Okay? So when you have an eating disorder, all foods are good foods. There is nothing off limits. There's no such thing as too much salt because we need a lot of salt. We need a lot of fats. We need a lot of carbs. I want to go all in, but I'm afraid that I won't stop gaining weights. So why do I feel like once I start to eat forbidden foods or more foods, I will never stop? I'm going to read this to you. While many of the hormones decrease eating, a powerful hunger hormone, ghrelin, is as high as in normal starvation. We're talking about people with eating disorders, okay? Ghrelin is highest before meals when people are hungry, and this creates a situation where the person with anorexia has an aversion to eating with increased satiety, yet still has a constant background of hunger. And this is part of the reason the person with anorexia has the feeling that if they eat, they will open the floodgates and they would eat forever. So there is a biological reason why you feel you're going to eat forever if you go all in. There's a reason you feel that way. We all feel that way. And you won't. But the reason you feel that way is because your hormones, when you have an eating disorder, are setting you up to feel that way. Okay? But if you feel like all in is a viable option for you, it's so important for you to explore that and try that. I would really encourage you to give that a go because all in, I couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. But all in is absolutely the quickest way to get to the end of recovery. It's going to force your brain to go through that extreme hunger. It's going to force you to normalize those neurotransmitters and brain chemistry quicker. Okay? It's just speeding up the recovery process. And it's wonderful if you can do that. And I know you feel like you're going to eat forever because we all do. I felt the same exact way for months on end. My extreme hunger lasted more than 6 months and I thought I was going to eat forever. And honestly, toward the end of it, I was just like, fuck it. I don't even care anymore if I eat forever. I don't want to, I just fucking gave up. I just gave over to it. But that was a long ways in. What is your opinion on sweeteners? I'm normal weight, recovering from bulimia, trying to reduce purging. Oh my gosh, when I tried to stop purging and I had bulimia and I had such an addiction to stevia. Holy cow, I was buying the big bags of it. And even as I was recovering and I was even trying to eat things like yogurt or whatever, I couldn't even eat yogurt without pouring stevia in it and stirring it up. Ugh, it was so gross. I was eating tons and tons of it. My kids were always like, just have sugar, Mom. Why are you eating stevia? Just have sugar. Why are you eating stevia? And I was always like, I like the flavor of it. I don't understand. Why would I eat sugar if I could eat stevia? Sugar's bad for you, and on and on and on. Well, I don't even have stevia in my house anymore. I only use sugar now. And I use it when I want sugar. Sometimes I'll have cinnamon sugar on toast. But now that I'm recovered, I don't have that kind of insane need for the sweetness anymore. So I don't put sugar in yogurt. Well, I mean, I can't really have yogurt because I'm allergic to dairy, and the vegan yogurts are not very good. But I don't add sugar to that stuff anymore. I don't feel the need to add sweeteners, but I'll have like sweet milky coffees, right? Or chai teas and stuff like that, or, or Sprites or Cokes or Dr. Peppers, and there's sugar in all of that. And occasionally, if, I'm at my parents' house and what they have is diet drinks, I'll have a diet drink, which is an artificial sweetener. I just don't judge any of it anymore because my eating disorder will kill me quicker. Bulimia and anorexia will kill you quicker than aspartame or whatever that artificial sweetener is, or any of those sweeteners, or even sugar for that matter. Even if you were to get diabetes, your eating disorder will kill you much quicker than diabetes will. So if you had to choose one, I would choose eating the sugar, right? So I just think it's all okay. It's definitely something that you have to challenge if you're going through recovery and you're using all the artificial sweeteners. You definitely need to challenge sugar, because sugar is an important thing to be able to eat, right? Oh, everything just dimmed on my phone. Oh, I'm going to have to go in a few minutes, guys. Lou had a facial and they're almost done. I'm really hungry mentally and physically the whole day. I couldn't see the rest of that. I think I just can't deal with this. Yes, you can deal with this, and it's what most of us deal with for most of recovery. It is nonstop. The hunger is nonstop. I would eat something, and this is probably you right now. I would eat something, and as I'm eating it, I would think about what I want to eat next. Or I'm like, did I make the right choice? Because now this sounds good. I'm eating a hamburger, but I really want a pizza. It was just constant food thoughts. So you're thinking of food thoughts. You're eating food. Your stomach is full from the food. It's just like an eating disorder person's nightmare, because we just always think we don't want anything to do with food, when in fact we love food, right? We're just like everybody else. We just have mixed up brain chemistry telling us food is bad and wrong, and feeding is bad and wrong, and that feeding is going to kill us and not eating is going to make us survive. But we do need to eat the food. And I know it's hard when you're just so hungry, and at some point you have to just allow yourself to feel the feelings. Because at some point I just told myself, how many people get the gift of learning about food a second time? Because truly, I didn't know what I loved anymore. I was so hungry all day, but I didn't know, do I like pancakes or waffles better? I don't know. I haven't had them in 20 years. Do I even like cheese on a burger? I don't know. I haven't had that in 20 years, but damn, it sounds good. I didn't know what I liked anymore. And so it was kind of fun to get to discover all of that about myself. So maybe you could try to look at it a little bit differently, of having a gift. And also, if you weren't hungry at all, that's a nightmare in recovery, because then you have to fall back on mechanical eating. And so having this hunger is kind of like a gift, and I hope you can just embrace it and look at it as a roadmap to full recovery. Because if you follow that hunger, if you truly want to recover, if you truly want to get to full recovery, okay, if that is truly your goal and you're committed and you want to do it, that hunger is the way out. That hunger is quite literally the yellow brick road. It's showing you how to get there. It's follow me. And if you can follow that hunger, it will lead you to full recovery. You won't even have to think about it. If you just follow that extreme hunger, it will get you to full recovery. Oh, I'm so tired of this. I just binged. All humans binge. All humans binge. Did you really binge? I don't know. I mean, binging is just eating a lot of food, more food than you would normally eat in a short amount of time, sometimes not feeling quite aware. All humans binge. Lots of us binge on Thanksgiving to the point where we feel pretty sick, right? It's a normal behavior that humans do. It's normal for humans to binge sometimes. And what's not normal is the restriction. So instead of trying to pick at the binge and being like, oh, I binge, damn it, pick at the restriction. Let the binges happen. The binges are recovery gifts. They're what needs to happen to get you to full recovery. It's the restriction that's standing in your way. That's where the problem lies. So instead of picking at the binge, stop the restriction. Let the binges happen. They have to happen to get you to full recovery. And if that's your goal, they got to happen. So that's not the problem. That's not the issue. The issue is the restriction. Okay? All mammals binge. All mammals have the capacity to binge when food is available. That is what mammals do. We are mammals. Okay? We need to stop looking at it as a bad thing. Instead, what's bad here is the restriction. That's what needs to stop. Okay? It's been a while since I've had orange juice. That was very tasty. This morning I had breakfast burrito, and Eva and I went to a place called Taco John's and had breakfast burrito and little circle potatoes, and we smush them in the burrito. Oh my gosh, delicious. Delicious. Let's see. I think I'm going to go soon, guys. Lou is going to be almost done. And we have some errands to run. So I think it's been about an hour. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to leave you with my shirt. Let's see what it says. It says, everyone knows deep down inside you hate eating clean. My new favorite shirt. Everyone knows deep down inside you hate eating clean. We all know it. It's so true. People need to say it more. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Bye.